Some people have colored pages. Most of you have white pages. Okay. So, the very first term that you need to remember is alliteration. Alliteration is anything that when... Please disappear. Okay. Like it says in here, the repetition of similar sounds, usually consonants, at the beginning of words or accent and symbols. Really famous one, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Actually, I haven't.
Say it again.
Why?
You can't say that?
You can do it pretty fast.
I can't even do it.
Not as fast as me, but
But the P's at the very beginning of this. And also the Peter Piper picked. There's a lot of PEs. There's a lot of PIs. This is an example of alliteration. What could be another really common one that you can think off the top of your head? I want you to raise your hands. Sally sells shells by the seashore. That's another one that
Sally's sitting in the shower.
Okay.
How much wood could woodchuck wood?
Correct.
You are blowing my
There are a
mind
lot of
today.
these that show up usually in nursery rhymes, tongue twisters. Have a lot of alliteration. So the first letters. Okay. The next one on that list is consonants. Okay. Okay. Consonants is the repetition of consonant sounds at the ends of words. The example in here is from one of Robert Frost's poems. This shows up a lot more in poems than it does actual stories. So, who woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. Okay, so no, though, and snow. That's consonants. Yes.
What do you call the repetition of Oh my. Like you keep saying
Sorry. So that's the idea of consonants. Okay. The next one. Does anybody else think they maybe would know some that are kind of common?
I don't know.
This one's hard to actually see, to think of other examples because, like I said, it shows up a lot more in poetry than it does in actual literary works. Shows up a lot in Dr. Seuss. Another thing as well. Okay, the next one is assonance. This one's the repetition of vowel sounds. This one is hear the lark and harden to the barking of the dark fox gone to ground. So the A's in this one and the O's is your repetition. Dr. Seuss has like 3 cheese, sits in the trees. So a lot of E's, a lot of vowel sounds as assonants.
I gotta sneeze.
What's your E's? Okay.
Who's biting back there?
The next one is onomatopoeia.
It sounds like.
Okay. Onomatopoeia is one of those words that one is fun to say, and 2 or so are a lot of the sounds that are on it. There's 5 common sounds that come with this. There's water, there's air, there's are sounds. There's if you put them in the center of something like spot or clang or whoosh, it's what could be a sound.
It's okay, bro.
If it was in there, it would be a sound if you would say it out loud, or it would be the idea of wind whooshing through the air. That's an onomatopoeia. Okay.
Onomatopoeia.
The next one is the idea of repetition. Repetition shows a lot in stories, especially when you're trying to make something sound really important. The Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech is really good for an example of this. In the very end, free at last, God Almighty, we're free at last. The free at last is the repetition in this one. So is his I Have a Dream. When he's trying to explain something, there's also at one point in time in his speech that he goes, at this time, sentence, at this time, sentence. Every new sentence started with at this time because he was trying to make it important. He was trying to drive it forward. Repetition is used a lot when you're speaking. If you listen to a lot of speeches, repetition comes up a lot because it drives the speech forward. And it kind of alliterates, it helps people definitely click with the ideas. So they remember them. Okay, the next one is the next sheet is the one behind it. So it's also labeled prominent Poe literary terms.
The next one is
It starts with imagery. These are your describing literary terms. So, imagery is anything that makes you, like, paints a picture within your mind of the idea. So, in this one, a host of golden daffodils beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze, continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. It makes you actually imagine the golden daffodils. It makes you think about, it doesn't just describe that there is, it doesn't just describe that there's a field of daffodils. It's explaining how the daffodils looked, how they moved, how they were basically in that field. So that's the idea of imagery. Without imagery, a story would be very dull, and you wouldn't know where you were. You wouldn't know exactly what was going on. And imagery also helps set the tone. Quentin, please stop. Thank you. Imagery also helps set the tone. Imagery can be dark, it can be light, it can be happy, it can be sad. It's kind of helps decide what direction the author wants you to look at the story as. The next one is the idea of a symbol. Symbolism can be interpreted in a million different ways. So, a rose can symbolize romance, especially the red rose. The wedding ring is marriage. Freedom, the American flag.
Yeah, freedom.
But these are, a lot of the symbols that I have on here are symbols that are commonplace. Usually an author tries to get the idea of symbols as a little less unknown. So in the Crucible, what could be counted as a symbol? Think through it.
that doll.
Okay, the doll was a pretty good symbol of their idea of witchcraft. And when they got hung, it was kind of the idea of not being right. The Crucible in itself is actually a symbol for the communist Red Scare, which is what Arthur Miller was trying to go for. So in a way, the entirety of the Crucible was a symbol. But there were little symbols within it.